Okay, so the big thing I've wanted to do this week has been the daily video thing through the 11th at least, because that's the 2-year anniversary of doing the thing. However, yesterday did not happen. Got sidetracked in the morning, so my parents had a thing that they were going to, so I figured I would start with the video here. And so that was my game plan. And as I was getting ready, I had somebody contact me about something I was selling, and so over at my storage unit, and she could meet me there in like 45 minutes. So we did that. There were some odds and ends that I wanted to dig back out while I was there, and so I went ahead and did that. And then came back, unloaded the stuff that I got out, because there's a box that had some like winter type stuff in it, like my leg warmers, some Christmas leggings. Not that I'm in a hurry for those, but all the same, gloves, boots, those kinds of things that I'm not going to want to go digging through the storage unit when it's cold and snowy. So I went ahead and got those, and I went through all my, or not all of my books, but I went through several of my books and found some that I wanted to bring back, in case I want to look through them, because there's been a few that's where I was thinking I put that away too soon, because I was hoping on getting out of here a lot quicker than I have. Of course, there was the brief span of time where I was debating on going and staying with my brother and his family for a little bit. And then I felt like, since I was split between the possibility of moving out there quicker or the possibility of getting to where I want to go in life quicker, I felt like my energy was being pulled too much in different directions, and that it wasn't necessarily beneficial to manifesting either one. Because it was, what did I want for real, right? So I set the possibility of going to stay out with my brother's family, set that aside. I've kind of been focusing on the path that will get me to the life that I want to be quicker, right? And focus my attention and my efforts on the one path, instead of that is the main path, but also this other thing is a possibility, just get rid of the one, right? So, yeah. Anyway, I don't know how I did that already. Anyway. So, because I put stuff in, or had a bunch of books and stuff in storage that I decided I wanted to dig back out. Right, so I got that stuff. And I went ahead and brought my squat machine back, because I figured if it gets real cold like it did last year, and I don't want to skate in that time frame, then I'm going to want to do something. So I brought it back. But after I unloaded everything from the car, I packed all the dogs up, all 5 of them, and we went over to the cemetery to walk. I figured we were going that way because Pepper was going with us. She's the old lady, and she doesn't get to walk a whole lot. She doesn't really like going real far either. And it made things complicated, because my heathens tend to get more chaotic when the others are added in. Especially with my healers in the pulling part. But yeah, so we went over and did that. At one point, okay, so my grandfather, once he and my grandmother moved back up here from Oklahoma in like the 90s, he had a job working over at the cemetery for a while. He was like one of the main people for mowing, and my grandmother was doing the weed eating over there, and my brother was frequently going over to help, as well as one of my uncles, and that was kind of the thing that they did. So the people that are associated with the, or that still work there, there are several that, well, not near as many as there used to be. There are a few that, were familiar with my grandfather, and one of them has been really familiar with the whole family because I was in band and even drumline with his daughter. She joined my junior year, which was her sophomore year, when we were doing the winter percussion stuff. So then, she became part of the, well, was she that year? I know she for sure was my senior year. I don't remember for sure if she was junior year or not. Have to go back and dig those pictures out. Although, oddly, since I'm thinking about that, she dated one of the douchey dudes that I hated, that was in the drum line with us, that, was also one of the bullies in my lifetime. And I was thinking about her the other day because when we were at Tyler's celebration of life thing, our little memorial drumline get together, the day of his funeral, she made a point of telling me how stupid he was. Not Tyler, the dude she dated. And it felt like part of what she was saying was because of the shit he was always saying about me. Now, of course, he didn't say that kind of stuff with the drumline group so much. However, because he kind of wanted those people to like him better. However, she dated him for like 4 years or something, so some ridiculous amount of time, and that was the biggest thing, was she didn't have anything specific to say on what he was saying, but she did address the fact that he was very stupid, and that she wasted a lot of time with him. So, yeah, anyway. After I walked the dogs, I had another thing that I'd realized I meant to take over there and hadn't. So I threw it in the back of the car when I was taking the dogs, and we stopped on the way back from the cemetery because it's on the way. And while there, and that time I was literally there just to open the thing, put the thing in, and shut it, and we were ready to be done. But my aunt sent me a message. My aunt had gone with my mom and dad to, they went to Cracker Barrel because my dad's sister's husband works there, and there's like the friends and family discount sale thing they were doing, but he had to be present, so they were meeting up with him. But my aunt loves a good deal, so she wanted to go with them. Anyway, so I'm getting ready to leave the storage unit and was planning on going to the bank because I had one last errand, right? So I had sold the one thing, and I have my care credit that is due on the 15th, and that has been my priority for the past 8 years because that has been the thing that has allowed me to have my dogs into the vet regularly, right? So we ended up getting the care credit card because Gidget, when she was a puppy, got into fire ants in the backyard at the house in Alabama, and she was like 4 months old when she got into the fire ants. And she ended up, I think they call it demodetic mange. She had a whole bunch of hair that she was scratching out, and she was a hot mess. But because she was so young, the stuff they wanted to give her, she had to be 6 months old before they would give it to her. So she was going in regularly for a while, and we had like a shampoo that I had to use on her, and she hated baths. She tolerates them a lot better these days now that she's 8, but she hated them, especially since, she had this mange and the itchy stuff, and it was not pretty. But anyway, that was why we ended up getting it. That has been basically it came with me when I split from my ex, and it has been the thing that has helped me be able to stay consistent about getting the dogs in. However, Taz's do. And since my income has slowed way down, we still don't have an appointment. We still got to pay enough down on the other thing to be able to have space to do that. But yeah. Although Christmas is coming up, so maybe that's what I request for Christmas is assistance on that trip. Anyway, yeah. So that thing's the priority, right? Because that has helped me immensely. And when we signed up for it, there was this deal that as long as you paid for the, if you covered the, it was a promotional deal. So if you paid it off within 6 months, there was no interest. I have managed to keep it down the entire time, right? So even I use it on different things. And of course, there's only one promotional balance at a time. So once that one gets to be like, you got to pay this off in X amount of time, then we focus primarily on that one. But we've handled it so far, right? This is like 8 years of handling this thing, and we're not trying to mess that up now. So, right. So I was wanting to go to the bank. And as I'm getting ready to go on that field trip to put my little bit that I just got from selling the wreck in there, I get a message from my aunt, mom's sister. And my dad was not acting right. And my mom was going to take him to the hospital again because she's not so sure he's not having another stroke. So. I think I got the first message when I was getting ready to, or when I had just gotten to the storage unit, and then the next message after I responded, and then she responded back, was I was getting ready to leave. And she said the crossroads they were at, that's right down the road from us. I was like, am I supposed to be there because I'm not at home? And she said, yes, please. It's like, and of course, it's a whole ordeal because, okay, when I get my dogs out of the car, Gidge and Ziva get out first. Ziva sits up front. Gidget just gets unhooked from the back and she comes through. They're not usually an issue, but Taz just waits in the back. You know, he's got a seatbelt, so he stays latched. So I, get the girls out, shut the door, get him out, and then go to the house. But I had 2 other dogs that I was getting out of the car yesterday, right? And then my aunt starts approaching the car when the girls are out, so the girls start trying to go that way. It's like, stop it! I can't get these guys, it's just a big pain in the ass. And my aunt comes over, and she's, at this point, she's getting on my nerves because she's standing, like, right where the dogs are pulling and making it difficult for me to have my other arm available to help get the others unhooked and out of the car, because now everybody's so excited to go see Beth. And it was just a big pain in the ass. But anyway, she started kind of making it sound all big dramatic and, they were at the restaurant and he knocked his coffee over, and then she thought he was going to fall when they were walking out to the car, and he just kind of seemed really absent and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And it felt like, she's all hyped up and I'm supposed to be getting hyped up too. And I'm more just irritated at the whole thing because I had another run that I wanted to go on. And, I still hadn't done my video at that point. And then I ended up getting summoned back home. And of course, my presence is wanted on the freaking trip, right? Because, we got to go to the emergency room, so it was easier if I dropped them at the door and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. So, we left probably about 2:45 when we left to go to the hospital. And I think it was like 10:30 when I got home last night. And of course, I was irritated at being there because I didn't want to be there, and I had other stuff that I wanted to do. And then, everybody's making it this big deal that, you might be having another stroke again. It's like, I've said this before, but back when he was being a dick in April, before any of the strokes, well, now, if you ask my mom, and, based on the conversation she's had with his psychiatrist, he would bet that he's been having these strokes for much longer. I'm not entirely convinced. I feel like that is just, at some level, an excuse to deny the bad behavior. And I've talked about how, it was before the strokes that he was making it a big deal. He smacked Gracie in the face one day. He told her he didn't like her, and she was like 7, right? So this little 7-year-old granddaughter, he's telling that he doesn't like her, but she ain't stupid. She already knew that because, he goes out of his way to slap her across the face, or tries to, because he wouldn't necessarily get off of the chair, but if she got close enough to him. And okay, so I've talked about Gracie as an amplifier before, and when I was standing in the kitchen, or I would be standing in the kitchen while Gracie was sitting at the table next to my mom. Whenever Gracie would have like some sort of meltdown, she's autistic, so a little temperamental on some things, she would always direct this hostility and rage toward me. And that was one of those things, it's like, I always felt like my parents didn't really like me. I've talked about that on here many times. But just something about me, honestly, potentially getting in the way of them being able to maintain their illusion, right? So, the whole family's BS has been wrapped up in keeping my grandfather's illusion alive and all this bullshit, right? So, I've always felt at some level like they kind of hated me. But they would never own up to that by any means. And I, for a long time, would bend over backwards trying to appease everybody for the sake of, like everything I was a problem to my family. So, I was trying to conform to what they wanted of me, but it would never work, right? It could never work. Of course, my connection with my mom's been tricky enough as it is. But I feel like it's been toxic enough on that end that it was a bit of a distraction for a while with the stuff with my father. And I don't know. Like, the more I've sorted through things, and anyway, the amplifier thing with the kid, right? So basically, in being in that space, she was picking up on the fact that my mom didn't like me as well. And, my energy was very unstable at that point in time. This was like right after I moved back and was in the process of getting divorced, right? So there was a lot going on. And I had no idea about any of these boundaries that I talk about a lot nowadays. But we would just be standing in there, and then all at once Gracie'd start screaming at me, or, come over and start hitting me or whatever. And it's like, it got to a point where it was just easier for me to not be in the room. And I think that was the biggest point, was she picks up on all the bad behavior, and So like with my dad, she would go out of her way to kind of pester him because she could get a reaction out of him. But it's already like the energy he was putting out there is already putting it out there, right? And there again, I've talked about the whole narcissism thing with my mom. She doesn't really like anyone. So she just wants to be appeased by everybody. Everybody's supposed to cater to what she wants and to, being the narcissistic supplying her with what she wants, the attention that, whether it's good or bad, if as long as she's getting your attention, that's still your attention, right? And still that much less you can be torn by trying to have a life somewhere else or doing something else. Because if you're distracted with her bullshit, then you don't have time for the other stuff, right? So, yeah. So, Gracie and my dad have never had a good relationship. And she's always very much picked up on the energies. Like, that's kid's an amplifier. That's that's all I can say about it, is like she picks up on what it is and like kind of throws it back. So I got along with her best when I wasn't around her. However, once we got to a point where we got our parents out of the middle of things and she was mainly spending time with me or my brother, she's a completely different kid. So there's a lot to be said for this, right? So this whole boundaries thing. So my brother and sister-in-law and I were all like, as we were making these connections and starting to see how things were playing out. Of course, the shit with my dad smacking her in the face, that, that was pretty hard on their willingness to bring her over when he was around, right? Because he's fucking toxic. But anyway, yeah. I don't know why I was on the Gracie stretch of it there, but with the whole dramatics thing, and then getting pulled into their drama last night and having to go with them and all this bullshit. I didn't get done what I wanted to do, which was my video, because I've been trying to do the daily videos this week, and before yesterday, I'd been successful at it. Yesterday, of course, I was irritated because they got in the way of what I was wanting to do. Again, I don't feel bad for my dad with the strokes at all, because the first several that he had were because he took himself off of his meds, right? So he had I want to say he's on 4 different blood pressure meds. So you stop those cold turkey, it sets you up for the potential of problems to come up, right? And then the next one back in September was because he took himself off of his CPAP machine for 2 weeks. So it's things that he has intentionally chosen to do, that's just catching up to him. And the deal in, okay, so April, I think, was the eye surgery. And they had something else come up where they were going to need to take a chunk out of the artery behind his eye to test it for something. So somewhere in there, I think it was after the eye surgery, he took himself off the meds because it was at the next surgery that he said he hadn't been taking his meds for 3 weeks. And then he has the surgery where it increases the possibility of stroke, because it is essentially a brain surgery. But also, he had taken himself off all of his blood pressure meds and everything, right? So it's all these other little layers of it. So it's it was still his decisions brought it on, right? And ultimately, I think what it comes down to is my grandfather passed away finally in December, and my mother still wasn't giving my father the attention that she had given her father, right? And of course, when her daddy was in the hospital, every single time he was in the hospital, she was living in the hospital. But once he was gone, the focus was more on my grandmother, or has been. But, my father's basically, it all stems from a big, massive temper tantrum. He's not getting the attention that she gave her daddy. And then, she was sidetracked with her mom. And, I've talked about that misogynistic element, right? So while my dad has gone over and spent time with my grandma, just hanging out, the two of them, I think there's a certain amount of that has come from him feeling like, since my grandfather's not there, somebody else should have to cater to his bullshit. Of course, my mom was distracted with her mom. So then my dad starts having other issues, right? And, self-initiated on those, right? So I don't feel sorry for him, and I don't care. The point of the April conversation was when he said something really shitty to me because he didn't know where we were going, and when I put the address in, found out we already passed the location. He wanted to think that I was too stupid, despite the fact that I have this technological device in my hand telling me that the address has been passed, right? So he's like, no, it hasn't. It keeps going on. It should be up here. It's like, all right, keep going. Right? But stupid phone call. Anyway, when we got into it, and I didn't say a whole lot. I just said, hey, you already passed it. And then he acted like I was stupid, and it's like, no. I refused to believe it. It's like, fine, right? But I was already pissed at him for something else, just for his attitude in general on a whole lot of things, and didn't want to have to be there with them because they've not been my favorite people. I mean, really ever, but especially the past few years. But I was in the mood back then that I basically said in my head, you're dead to me, right? So I'm still feeling that very strongly. So to have to be at the hospital with them when I had other stuff that I wanted to do, it kind of pissed me off. And of course, my dad goes out of his way, because my mom's there, where he gets all big and puffed up and, thank you for all that you do. It's like, fuck you. Right? Because, okay, as I was journaling about it last night, with that whole thank you, it's like, he does it because there's an audience. He might say it when there's not an audience, but he goes out of his way to do it if there is an audience. And it's more, I feel like it's more so the other person can realize how rude I am, because he went out of his way to thank me for something and make a big deal about it, and I did not receive it well. Every single time that man thanks me for anything, it feels so freaking disingenuous that it's just like, keep it. I don't want it. I don't believe you. It's like for me to be there yesterday, it's like, essentially what you're thanking me for is for falling back in line and doing what I'm supposed to do, right? Because they hadn't been able to rope me into stuff like they had in a while, right? Because I've been distancing myself from them. I don't want to spend time with them. So it's just like, anytime he does like that, the other part of that was, I was sitting in there with my headphones on and listening to, I had a tarot reading going or something, and basically just trying to ignore them. And he decides he wants his phone. And so he's got to watch like the bullshit political stuff or the religious stuff or whatever. And he had like some stupid Charlie Kirk thing on. And it's just like, my mom saw my eyes at one point and she's like, don't do this here. I was just like, fuck you. And then he turns on the news on TV. And it wasn't anything political at the moment, but it's just like everything. The reason he wants to only have access to watching whatever one person wants to watch is because he wants to sit there on that couch and be the one person dictating what everybody else is stuck watching. And it's always religious or political bullshit. And I mean, when he's ready to set you off, that's what it's going to be, because he's trying to force you to have to deal with the bullshit. And so when he turned the news on, and I could hear that over my headphones, I got my stuff and I went into the waiting room. I didn't say anything. I just got up and left. And I went out there. I had to played out the whole tarot reading. It was actually kind of funny. It was the one that I was watching while I was in the waiting room was Nordic Light, and there were 3 piles that I felt really drawn to, and then there was a 4th pile, and I just kind of let that one play out. But it was still relevant. But the second one, which was the first one I listened to when I was in the waiting room, she had like the 3 cards the 3 tarot cards at the top, and then there were 3 clarifiers underneath them. And the one in the middle at the top was the 2 of Cups, which that's like partnerships, right? And that's, one of the love cards and all this stuff. And then the card underneath that was the Devil card. And what she commented on was how in the 2 of Cups, there's a couple, right? And they're standing there. I don't know if they were holding hands or what they were doing, but they were touching each other. And in the Devil card, each one, he has, a cage in each hand. And on one side, it's, the male figure, and in the other it's the female. And she made this comment about it feels like there's a connection that you're trying to get to, but there's something else that's standing in the way, trying to block you from getting there. It's like, oh, hey, that's my fucking family, right? Like, that's not new. That's very much, like why I've been made to shrink my entire life is because I am meant for way more than this shit. And yet, if they keep me distracted by their chaos, I'm much less likely to be able to get to where I'm meant to be going, right? The things that I'm meant to experience in my lifetime, the friendships and relationships that are meant for me, that I've always felt like my parents are ultimately blocking me from, right? And that was the sort of feeling like when my mom made a big deal about how they had to get me out of that connection with my ex, and stop everything to come help me move back. But there was also that element of, yay, now she's coming back and can do what she's supposed to be doing, right? That was their allowing me to have the relationship that took me away from the family and all that stuff. It's like they allowed me to have this toxic connection, which in fact the toxicity of the connection was because of my family, right? I never would have gotten into such a shitty relationship had it not been for the shitty treatment that I was getting kind of nonstop from my family, right? So, so she's talking about there's this devil figure that's standing in between you and the person you're wanting to be with or whatever, and it's like, that's literally been my family the entire fucking way. It's like, all the little things, going back to my bear, where, like they, they didn't care that I was taking pictures at the zoo. They cared when suddenly there was a contest and I won it, right? And I don't think I even told them that I had entered the contest. I might have. But then as soon as it was just like, if something happens, then cool. And if not, no biggie, right? So it was like the thing that I entered feeling very detached to whether anything happened of it, right? But had there been a prize, I would have automatically not put my picture that won in the contest because I didn't deem myself worthy of having good things happen, right? I wasn't somebody that wins things or whatever. It's like, but part of that has been because of my family, right? They try to block me from doing anything worthwhile, or, like when I did win it, then they suddenly found a way within a half hour of me finding out that I won, they found a way to hijack it, and then I ended up spending the rest of the day crying because they fucked my day up, right? It's like this thing that was supposed to be a good thing, but then they pissed all over it and took the life out of the possibility, right? The thing that happened that went well. And it's like, that's literally what they have been doing all of my life, right? Is sucking the life out of the things that have brought me any kind of joy, right? Like my mom gloated because because that was how she realized she could get back at me, was because I had this thing that won, and it was just, I was taking pictures anytime we were there. Well, once she found out Gracie was moving, then she made a big deal to gloat about, oh, well, this means I don't have to renew the zoo membership anymore. It's like, no shit, why would you? But like that little sneer with it. It's like literally the thing she, haha, now you have no reason to go and take pictures that, you won this thing, but you'll never do that again, right? Because now we lost that thing. So then, and another thing that I've been kind of aggravated on with this point is, so I went out to lunch with my aunt the other day, and we were talking about boundaries and whatnot. And, she's working with a therapist, and, they've been talking about setting boundaries. And I don't remember what it was in the conversation, but at some point I made the comment that when I'm gone, I can't say I'll be back. And so when she called, or when she was messaging me yesterday and then I showed up, it felt like it was her duty to bring me back in, right? So since I'd made this comment, said this thing from a couple days ago when we went out to lunch together, then she was able to successfully rope me back into my mom's bullshit with, and being all dramatic about how terrible my father was acting and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I fucking don't care, y'all. I do not care. It's just, I don't. And I'm ready to not be here, is the thing. And because it literally does not matter what happens, so long as they're able to pull me back into their drama. They're able to, at any level, make me fall back in line, right? That's literally what they want. That's the only thing they want, because they want access to my energy. And I don't fucking care. I'm so over these people. I just, when I'm gone, right? And see, I think that's why this whole thing came up, is because I've been kind of wishy-washy on that point lately. Because, since it was September, since anything happened last, and September, My dad had the second. He had multiple strokes the first time. So the second hospital trip for a stroke, perhaps. But again, he chose to take himself off the CPAP machine. He never had a problem with using the CPAP machine in the entire time that he's had that damn CPAP machine, right? And he had, when I was little, I remember, okay, so back when my great-grandparents still lived in their place in Bloomfield, I remember sitting in the living room with my great-grandparents and my mom and my brother, and my dad had gone to bed and was snoring so loud that he was literally rattling the ceiling fan in the room we were in. And it was so ridiculously loud, but I remember we're all just kind of staring at the ceiling fan because it didn't usually make these noises. But I know he's had several surgeries over the years, and the one that I remember, I guess, the most-ish was, I think, my senior year in high school. And that was because they, broke his jaws and moved his lower jaw forward because, they were thinking that because his tongue was so far back in his throat, that was, part of the breathing issue. And anyway, I don't know when he got on the CPAP machine, but it was like magic once he did. It was like, because we would go on family vacations, and, he and my brother would share a bed, and then me and my mom would share a bed. And I would always, I would take my Discman, and I would have music playing, and I would wait until I was getting ready to fall asleep, and then I would shut it off and, take the headphones off and be able to go to sleep. But I had to be right there on the verge of it, because if I just had to listen to him, it's I wasn't going to go to sleep anytime soon, right? So that CPAP machine has literally never been a problem because he was able to finally breathe, right, and to finally go to sleep, and it wasn't an issue until he chose to stop taking it or stop using it for 2 weeks, and suddenly, bam, has another stroke. So again, it's I don't feel bad for you when you're literally putting dumb shit out into the universe. You literally just want the attention. I don't give a shit when you start having the issues, because it's literally always been about giving people shit and blocking them or me from being able to do anything, right? So for the disingenuous thank you that feels more, and see, that was the other thing. I had left the room for a while, and I was in the waiting room for an hour, and I sat in there listening to the tarot reading and coloring, just to give myself some space away from it and not try to deal with any of that shit. And my mom sent me a message when he finally went back for his MRI, and then I went back to the room shortly after that. So it was after all that he went and made this big deal about saying thank you. And it's and I had my headphones up. I heard him say it, and I ignored it because I didn't care, because it feels literally disingenuous. I don't buy it. And Mom goes, Sarah, it's what? He just said something to you. It's what? And so he says it again. And so, so because he had to repeat it, it was literally just so, so the audience in the room, this time my mother, the other time his brother, could see that he was thanking me and I was ungrateful. I don't care. I don't fucking care. And then part of it was I don't like staring at my phone as long as I was staring at my phone yesterday, right? Because I don't want to have to deal with them, and I was wanting to listen to other things that weren't them. So I think I watched another reading that was talking about something with overstimulation. It's like, yeah, I feel very, that was a Kino reading. It's like I feel so very overstimulated with all this stuff that I'm watching and only like half watching because there's so much else going on, and because I have this little bullshit where they're trying to say the things to get me to feel all warm and fuzzy because he said thank you. Yeah. So I was trying to ignore him. I was trying hard. And I was getting more agitated by having the other stuff going on. I should have just stayed in the waiting room more time. And sat there quietly, coloring, because that would have been fine. I will say, when I got out there, a little bit after I sat out there and started coloring, there was a lady, and I'm assuming her sister, walking through, and they had, the one had twins holding either hand, and I think there was another child, and I happened to look over as they were walking past, and the one lady that has, she's holding hands with the two twins, she looks at me and she just says, "Oh, I just love your aesthetic." It's just all the bright and colorful everything, and it's like, thank you. So at least there was that little moment that was a little bit of a pick-me-up, because I was like brain dead from being around my parents, and just trying to ignore them by having something else play out. Like I said, I should have note to self for next time, because I'm sure there'll be a next time. Spend more time in the waiting room, because no matter what craziness is going on in the waiting room, it's less obnoxious than my parents. But anyway, it's not time. Come here. This kid wants some attention. Yeah. And since she got closer to her brother, she'll just like tag him on the nose too. And now he's looking at me. Okay, anyway. Okay, take a break. We're not doing that yet. Yeah, so apparently they said they didn't think, oh, she better not call me. She better not, or wait. They didn't think that there was anything necessarily, but since he was having symptoms and he'd had a history of strokes, they kept him for observation, right? So I think my mom was almost gleeful when they were just keeping him for observation rather than putting him on like the, I don't know, ICU or somewhere like that. Since it was just for observation. Well, I don't think they want people to I don't think they want you to have guests staying overnight for that. So she jumped at the opportunity to go home. And I think that pissed him off because she didn't stay, right? Because she stayed literally anytime my grandfather was in the hospital. But when my dad has to stay overnight, she went home, right? Which, that was annoying too, because I had thought about doing one after I got home if she had stayed, but then she came home, so it's like, fuck. But I was feeling so brain dead anyway. It's just like, fuck it. So we came back home, and I had pizza before we left at like 3, like leftover pizza from what she ordered for my aunt and uncle helping out a couple days ago, right? I had some of that, but it was at 3 o'clock. 10 o'clock, I was hungry. And when we got back home, I found, like, we had this chicken Alfredo stuff the other day. It's like Aldi's has it in bags. This is pretty good. I like the Alfredo. Anyway, it's like, well, it's like if it was a pasta sauce, then I don't do tomato sauces if I'm getting ready to go to sleep, because I know that's going to give me heartburn. I was like, maybe the Alfredo will be better. But since I had to deal with, being around those people all day, it's like, I gotta wash this out of my system, right? So I decided to go soak in a salt bath. Lots and lots of salt. And I did listen to the Healing Vibrations cord cutting thing again, because fuck these people. And yeah, so I felt better afterwards, but not like I usually do. I still felt like really kind of brain dead. But then also it's like maybe the Alfredo wasn't ideal because, just spending time in the bath, it's like I'm starting to feel a little heartburn again. And part of it is probably also that I did donate platelets. What day was that? Sometime recently. And that gives me a lot of heartburn because apparently it has something to do with the stuff they use to keep your blood from clotting while they, take your platelets out and then put it back in your system. And it doesn't bother me like the first, if I only do 2 units, it's not a problem. If I do the 3rd unit, then I'm going to have heartburn. And anyway, so I took like some of the Viactive stuff I have for that. And then went and had like some chocolate milk or something and kind of try to tone it down in that way. No, take a break. Take a break. But then it's like a big part of it is I hated eating something that late anyway because I was getting ready to go to bed. But I had to eat something. I was hungry. So I went with it anyway. But yeah, like on that end, like, the one reading was talking about overstimulation. And this week there's been, so I think I've had 3 nights now where I cannot listen to anything. Normally I have like some sort of healing tones or whatever going on. And the past like 3 nights, I have this one fan across the room going, and then I'll have the rain on my white noise machine. It's like, that's it. It's like I cannot handle anything beyond that. And last night I had a really vivid dream. I wrote like a few notes down, but like the biggest thing that one of the biggest things that I remember about it was just this bright blue color. It was like bright blue water and like this mountain kind of scenery. And it was like there was this cabin that somebody was showing me. It's like I had a couple friend that was going to be staying in this space for some reason. And there was like they had this sort of deck thing that was right on the water and like in the water, over the water kind of a thing. And there was something with like this glass window that you could still get into the water like under it or something. I don't even know how it was all working, but I remember there's the cabin, and the cabin was kind of this vivid thing, and then the blue was just so very vivid, and it was like water and mountains, and like even the mountains were this bluish color. But then there was like another scene, and it was like some time had passed and I'd gone back, and the female friend was no longer there, but her spouse or whatever, he was there. And I remember commenting about the dirty dishes because like there was this sink in this main room of it. It was like a big sink, like a big utility sink, but it was like still the wood kind of finish with the cabin kind of thing. And it's like every dirty dish in the house was in the sink. Like every dish that they had in this space was in the sink. And he was looking kind of disheveled and not in a good space. And obviously what's happened to her. So, and then there were like there were some people, but then there were some like creatures and they were like honestly, okay, it looked like, like the real tall Barbie dolls that are like 3 feet tall or whatever. It looked like one of those, except for it was alive, right? And it wasn't the plastic doll, and it had darker hair. But then it had like razor sharp teeth. And it's like there were these tubes or boxes or something that were connected with them that told you their name. But they see the word that, or the word that was coming to mind this morning, as because I was trying to hold on to this. This is like a really vivid dream, and I'm trying to remember some of these details, right? But like the sprites. Okay, and I think that's like a what the little things were in Rainbow Bright. The little fluffy looking creatures that were the friends. However, that was not a fluffy looking creature at all, but that was the word that was coming to mind with it. But it had like razor sharp teeth. And they were kind of scary, right? But they were like, I remember 3 of them specifically. And I think they might have had like different color hair and different color outfits, because of course, right? But everything still had that kind of blue tone or hue or whatever. And yeah, I don't know. It was weird. But then it seemed like something, like, I don't know if the wife friend, if she had become one of these, or if she had been eaten by one of these, or what the situation was. Like, I don't have that backstory, which is unfortunate. But then it seemed like, ooh, this could be like kind of horror movie kind of stuff. So anyway, I sent myself a few notes, and then was just trying to hold on to what I was, thinking through this morning. Of course, I'm going to journal about it whenever I get the chance, but I needed to sit down and spend time putting that out there. Now I at least have it in this space, so when I go to watch this later, I can remember those little details that I did say, and put those down when I'm journaling. So yeah, it's weird. But anyway, like, I feel like that's been the biggest thing here lately, is having less stimulation. No! Take a break. If she did not get her WALK today, which they will, but I wanted to do this first. Take a break. She's getting ready to do it again. Yeah. But anyway, like that overstimulation piece. It's like I feel like I've needed the quiet this latter part of the week. And I think part of that goes along with this writing, like actually book writing focus as well, and just needing kind of the space to be able to let my thoughts process without something else distracting me away from what's actually going on, right? So, oops, and my stomach will start making noises again. That's always fun. Pretty routine these days. Stomach makes an appearance in the video. So, and there have been other times where, like, because there are some times that I can't go to sleep without something else going on. And last night, like, there was the start where I was struggling, and so I listened to a couple meditations to kind of help tone my brain down on that end. But it's like, no, I see you over there. Sometimes I just need a little more space. And then it's like, sometimes I wake up and it feels like I'm having conversations at this other level, right? And I'll go back to the one where I woke up one morning when I was trying to figure out this whole boundaries thing and heard the word moo kite jasper. So it's like, that's important, right? And since it was so clear, and it was like somebody whispered it in my ear as I woke up, I wrote it down. And of course, I think when I looked at it, something that it said it was for was something about disconnecting intergenerational, I don't know, something with the family and disconnecting. I was like, ooh, you know, so like to have this, this thing whispered to me as I'm waking up, obviously it's important, and then it's relevant at like this family level as well. It's like, you know, so then I hooked my brother up with that too. So then he started disconnecting a bit, and then it's like, then he started, you know, once I was helping him set some boundaries and, you know, learn some things on this end with the family stuff, he became a much safer space for me to be around and communicate about like the freaking YouTube thing. No. And yeah, so there's that. Come over here so she can see me. That's the bigger thing. She wants to do that. No, we're not ready yet. I have birds in the bathtub too because Buddha's been molting, and I was in there waiting for my phone to charge, and he kept shaking, and like all this fluff and dust was flying off of him. It's like, he's molting. He needs a bath. So I went ahead and threw him in the shower. It's like I threw them in my bathtub and had the shower on, so that's their shower time. They like it. They needed it. Their cage needs some work today, so before they go back in the cage, that'll happen. But I'll probably go ahead and take my heathens on their little journey, since we still have some time. But I'm at an hour, and they're starting to get fussy, so I'm going to go ahead and do the thing. She just jumped off the bed. She's ready now. She knows it. See, that's the problem. It's just like, honestly, she's dictating that it's time to wrap it up. And it's based on her experience of when we've cut it before and all that fun stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, since she's getting obnoxious, as always, I appreciate you. Until next time. See ya. It gets worse.